I feel better. It's saying the connection's a bit naff, so I'll pause and try and keep an eye on it so it doesn't cut out. We had storms here in the UK, so it's really nice, you know, when you get that lift after the storm, that the air feels cleared. I quite like, though there's not a sunny blue sky above me, it feels like that sun is burning off all of that cloud. So I posted 2 videos this morning because when I went to do my meditation, these couple had come up. Now, for those of you that don't know, I'm a big fan of Louise L. Hay. She changed my life at 16 years old. In fact, I would hazard to say she changed the course of my life at 16. I had been suffering from panic attacks during my teens. So, although they were thinking it was more a issue with eating, I'd get panicky, I wouldn't eat, and disorders, but we went through different things. But Louise and her philosophy, shall we say, I came across around that time, 16, 17 years old, was introduced to her, and affirmations, and working with one particular affirmation: I trust in the process of life, only good comes to me and through me. I knew it off by heart. Anyway, so the reason I say this is the reason I've shared on my page these 2 videos is, as I said, when I got this morning the meditation, I thought, I came across this one, and I want to talk about AI, because both of these videos that I shared are AI generated. So when you look at them, it looks as though, it sounds as though it's Louise L. Hay, but it's not. But because I've listened to her for years, she's got a morning and evening meditation. So through my teenage years, I used to listen to the morning and evening meditation. So I know the cadence of her voice off by heart, for that. But also I've listened to many of her stuff when she was alive. She's no longer with us. She transitioned, I can't remember what year it was now, a few years ago. Anyway, she's also, a lot of you probably listen to, or if you're not familiar with her, you might be familiar with her legacy. She was considered one of the, if not the, I would say, but one of the founders of the personal development remit, if you like. And she has a publishing house called Hay House, which was started, it's Hay for Louise L. Hay, and there are thousands of authors, amazing books, and I love all of the cards, packs, etc. So obviously Hay House is still around, and the legacy that she left is amazing. If you haven't read any of their authors, you go check it out. They've got an app actually that you can pay a short thing for a year, and I listen because I, obviously with the dyslexia, audiobooks consuming, so one of my favourite things to do at the moment is, didn't need to do it last night though, when watering the plants, I come out and I need to do the watering can to do the front, and I'm back and forth. I stick on my book, and I'm re-listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer's book, but I'll save that for another life. At the moment I can see clearly, but I would highly recommend the book. Anyway, so Louise, the 2 videos. One of these videos has good practice in the fact that in the description, when you read, and you have to look into it, because on the front it says a picture of her, says her name, so you would instantly, you click on that thumbnail, you'd be clicking on the thumbnail thinking you were going to listen to Louise L. Hay. It's in her voice, but the wording is not in her terminology. It may be inspired by her, but it's not her. And I was questioning, how do we tell? Because in actual fact, like when I upload a video, I have to say whether it's been, whether AI has been used. I don't know if I click that button, because I obviously don't, what the outcome would be. How would you know? Because those videos are quite obviously, to me at least, AI generated, because I know how she speaks, the term and her phrases that she uses after having years and years of listening to her. But others, if you don't know who Louise L. Hay is and you're listening to her, as far as you're concerned, those videos would be her. So it's about, like, and I've put in my thing, like, if you go to see an Elvis impersonator, you know you're seeing an Elvis impersonator, and you enjoy it, and it's still credible and a really good performance, as are both those videos. But I feel there needs to be some accountability about what is AI generated and what isn't, because someone else that went to those channels and those videos would not know necessarily, especially if they don't know who Louise L. Hay is. They might think that that is her. And even the one that had Good Practice and in the description says it's inspired by Louise L. Hay, there's nowhere along there that says this is not Louise L. Hay. I don't know how the copyright to that goes. I think it's with the fact how Hay House would say that material, and obviously they haven't broken any laws in uploading those videos, or they would have been taken down. So the second video, though, I think I put up, or was it the first one? I think if you read the comments in both the posts, I don't think it's Good Practice. Nowhere on their description does it say they are not Louise L. Hay. It just presents as if it is her in her voice, but I know the wording isn't. So how do we, as a consumer of content, if you like, that we're watching a video, know or learn to know the difference? I think this is something that is worth knowing. As a content creator, I feel we all need to have the integrity to state where we get information. So, for example, yesterday I posted a post about Friday the 13th, and the information at the end I've put source, and I've tagged where that information comes from, cited it, just like when you would get and when you're writing an essay, you cite where your information is coming from. So I feel it just seems like a normal extension of that whether it is someone using and utilising the voice of someone in an AI generated thing and maybe inspired, to say it's inspired, but make it really clear that this video is not Louise L. Hay, for example, this is using the voice of Louise L. Hay. Because yes, in places like YouTube, when we upload content, it asks us. So as a content creator, we have to say it's generated. But as someone that's consuming that, so the person that's watching the video, you have to research to look. It should be the other way around. Like I say, you know when you go watch an Elvis impersonator that you're watching an Elvis impersonator by two reasons. One, obviously he's not alive anymore, and neither is Louise L. Hay. But two, it's quite obvious that people know you book the tickets and you know it's an impersonator. I just think, like my daughter and I, at the end of her year, we're going to see a Taylor Swift impersonator with a couple of the other kids and mums. But we know we're not seeing Taylor Swift. She may be singing Taylor Swift songs and impersonating her, but it's known up front that it's not her. So with some of these videos now and this content, and even things that are written, it's getting really hard to distinguish what's made by a person and what's made by AI. And I'm not saying either way that this is bad or good. I think that there just needs to be things in place. I watched this workshop yesterday, and actually it was pretty awesome. And I see the technology as an amazing tool. As an artist, to me, I've just seen the computer when I'm doing digital art as an extension of a paintbrush, as a tool. But when it comes to things like, what was it I was watching? Maybe I'll try and share some. It was on Instagram, and there was a girl, she was asking the AI, I don't think it was ChatGPT, it might have been, but it was kind of talking back to her. She was asking the questions around spirituality, for example, and what the answers that were given back were profound and wonderful. So obviously learning from, and this technology now is capable of learning and taking and pulling all that information. Another amazing thing I saw, and a coach that I follow, and how it can be really helpful to helping people, but I think it should be known. He Brendan Burchard was talking about this technology. So you can, so say for example, he has put all of his books that he's created, all of his videos and everything, it's programmed into this, whatever it's called, I can't remember what the program was called, and it takes all of his content and it creates a virtual version of him, and it speaks like him. It also uses the terminology because it's pulling from all of the aspects of him, but it cites where it comes from. So it cites that this is taken from this blog, this is taken from this book, and you can then click on that book and go to that book. So it's accrediting even him, but it's pretty amazing. And it also can react, like you can in the chat boxes, to people that are wanting to interact, and they're given the answers that he would give from his content and citing where that content's coming from. So you're literally, it's your own virtual you. How awesome is that? But you can see how that can be abused, just like I feel these videos in a sense, by not being completely transparent about the fact that they're AI generated. The thumbnail doesn't say AI, it just says Louise L. Hay. So when you click on that, you're clicking on it with the intention of thinking, I'm clicking on a video with Louise L. Hay. And actually, I just did a little Google, not Google, but search in YouTube for Alexa. I said, go to YouTube and search for videos that are Louise L. Hay, official Louise L. Hay videos, not AI generated. And the irony was that what came up, the top one wasn't, it was AI. There was other ones, real recordings of her, that did come up, and that you can generally see it's her. But the majority of those that came up wasn't her. Neither was it the official website of Louise L. Hay, considering I was asking it for the official Louise L. Hay. So Hay House didn't come up, which I would say would be a official content of her stuff. So it's a little bit scary because we use technology like this all the time. It's knowing where the stuff comes from. And how do we do this in a way that's integral and genuine? I mean, I can see cases where people are genuinely looking up that information, and if you're trusting that, you have to be able to trust where it comes from. I learned this back in 2020 when there was lots and lots of stuff that you couldn't access, and they was restricting, serious restrictions on information. So it's a fine line between knowing if something's faked or being presented in a way that is, I say not integral, but misleading, and they're doing it deliberately, or whether it's been done accidentally. If you've got information that's then, well, we had a whole, I'm not going to go into that because that would be restrictive, but literally the information that was used at the beginning of the pandemic was not actually, they took one bit of information and went with it, and the whole world kind of followed it. And in actual fact, when it was researched properly, and it's taken years for that to come through, it wasn't the correct information that people were given. So they misled people, whether accidentally or intentionally is another kind of total debate, but it still happened. And how we research things, how we do our due diligence is really important. So as a creator and someone that's presenting information to the public on my pages, I have to take some responsibility for that. But also I feel that, so when I look into things, I always state where that information has come from, and I state when it's come from source. So this is the second half of what I would like to talk about in this little live. How important it is to connect into what is right. And you can feel it in your body. Discernment. Discernment over judgment, I think, is really important this month, because people are reaffirming their belief systems, reaffirming energetically what is important to them, me included. And obviously on this 21-day transformation challenge that I've invited people to come along to in my members area, my Patreon, every day we're using different tools, and one of the tools is about how you discern. And this one I wanted to do, whether you sign up to do the challenge or not, I wanted to share here. One of the things that you can do really simply is to muscle test things, to feel into things. So kinesiology, we look at how the body feels, but as part of that we do a muscle testing. When you feel into your gut, when you feel into your instinct, but actually feeling what's right for you is what I would say. Learning to trust the intuition, even over the mind, even over what's in front of you, is something I've tried to teach my kids, that I have used all my life. Discernment and feeling into something. Now someone might say, well, that's not an exact science, but actually I think it is a science. I think you can certainly, obviously you can look into the kinesiology side of it and how to muscle test. Some would argue that that is maybe even lead. But I think at the end of the day, it's about tuning into what's right for you, because even watching a piece of content or eating a piece of food at one moment might be right for you, and at another moment might not be right, depending on where you're at emotionally, mentally, and physically. You could argue that obviously if you're physically really, really fit and eat well 90% of the time, then when you're then taking something that you know is maybe not the best of energy or not going to be the best for your body's going to be able to handle it. So you muscle test, and yet it will be fine for you to take that. But maybe you are the opposite, you eat like that all the time, rubbish and rough. When you go to muscle test to eat that thing, it's one more thing to push the body over. It would say no, that's not a good time to be eating, because your body is completely overwhelmed already. And maybe it's the same within your emotional field and your mental field, that consuming loads of content that is fear porn, as people say, is not going to be good for you if you're not in a good state emotionally and fearful, and kind of you get into that stress, anxiety. It's not physically good for your emotional body, and mentally not good, and can make people very, very ill, very anxious, very stressed. So learning to discern what's right for you. I stopped reading newsreels, and I never really read newspapers, so I say watching things for the news, probably about 20 years ago. And I still find out what's happening. So it's not that you won't know what's happening in the world. People say, you know, but I know what is right for me. And I think it's about knowing what's right for you. And also knowing where that content comes from is important, like we said with the videos and the AI. So doing due diligence in understanding with what you're consuming, be it a film, and high octane, the images that are, how they affect you, and what you're watching. And some of the newsreels I think are scarier than some of the horror films, personally. So I choose not to watch that stuff. It doesn't mean, as I said, that you are ignorant to what's happening. There's a difference. That's what I mean. You need to learn in your own way how to balance that. So there's my Soulful Saturday, talking about AI and how far it's come. And actually, to end on a positive note, as I said about like the coach that I watched, and he was talking about this technology, how helpful that can be, because not needing to just I'll get her to call you, hun. All right. She's sleeping at the moment, but I'll wake her up shortly. I was going to finish my live, finish my lemon, and my little ponderings to people about AI and how it can be a gift, because what I want to finish with is, if it's a learning technology, it learns from us. So if we're in duality, if we're teaching it that we're using it as a deceptive tool, if it's being used to like deceive people, then it's going to learn to do that in itself. It's going to be learning from how we are and our integrity. However, if we're teaching it to be integral, to be beyond our belief systems, to always be open and receptive to learning from the highest aspect, then that's how it will learn. So if it is a mirror of us, then we need to be examples as a humanity of the best of humanity. So that's what it will mirror, and work with it, not see it as a negative thing, but see it as the gift it can be, not just a tool. As I said, before I could think of technology as a tool. Now it's beyond that, because it can be really helpful. And I had not used ChatGPT at all until yesterday. Use it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. I used it for the first time, and it's pretty awesome, I have to say. As someone that is dyslexic and struggles with things like punctuation and grammar, I was able to take the text I'd written and allow it to rewrite and adjust my grammar, which it did for me, and it put the punctuations in, and it was beautiful. So, and then the same piece that had been written, and I'd cited the information already where it had come from, for an Instagram post, so you can go look. I asked it to abbreviate the text for an Instagram post, which it did. So it shorted it so it could fit in, because I would sometimes spend ages going through taking out the ands and things just to fit it. So because it automatically posts from Facebook to my Instagram, and it wouldn't post if it's longer than so many words and all of these. So you can check out my Instagram post from yesterday's Friday the 13th post. Has been a summary of what I had written by AI. So I have to say whether I added it or not. I don't know whether I did. I was in a hurry, so I will go back in though and add a summary of my text by ChatGPT or whatever, because it's the first time I've used it and it's awesome. And I know people that have been using it. Someone in one of our latte groups had said, I use it all the time for ideas, and I was like, I never have an issue with ideas. In fact, my issue is I have too many ideas, and just sticking and honing and focusing on one. So yeah, but I have always, in a sense, used it as a way of honing. So if I get some guidance that comes in from source, and it might just be that it's the image and I keep seeing this same image, I will then go and look up what is the symbology of this image. And to me, that's still, it's like when you see the birds, for example, that are warnings, and some people add the permission slip. Oh, to me that means this. But it's this whole reading the patterns of this kind of beautiful matrix. In the same way, we're reading the patterns within this AI system, the web, that we have, all this information. And in the same way, synchronicity and beautiful flow can lead us to information that is exactly what we want to know. I truly believe that because I've got that belief, that's the important thing, permission slip. So what we believe, our mind will show us. So that's worth bearing in mind if you have a belief that you don't want something to be a reality. And that certainly comes from Louise L. Hay philosophy. So to simplify and to finish before I go off on major tangents, because I could talk for hours about this, is the thought that you're thinking at the moment. And I'm not asking, don't want it to challenge you to change your beliefs, but just know this. The thought that you are thinking at the moment, for example, it could be, oh God, it's a horrible day. Yeah? Do you want that to be the case? Do you want it to be a horrible day? Because if you don't, then maybe it's time to be aware that you are not your thoughts, which people forget, and meditation beautifully shows us. You are the observer of your thoughts. You're the one that witnesses them. And science and technology explains and tells us this, because when they put these little bits on the head, the thoughts don't come from in here. That's the receptive dye radio station that picks it up. They come from out here. They literally come from outside. So whether you knew that or not, yeah, I think I always muddle them up. ECG and EEG are the two. And HeartMath have done lots of research on this, and how people, like when they call the psychic reports, where we precognitively see the image that's coming, and we start, and within the seconds the brain actually knows it before it's on the screen. So anyway, interesting research to look into. Love and blessings for your day. Have a beautiful soulful Saturday. If you're joining me, it's day 5 of my 21-day challenge. To join, you just have to be a paid member, and I'm over these days doing 5 minutes of little, or 5 to 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes for you to do whatever it is you want to do. You can pick one of the things we're working with, although I'm giving you different things each day that are game changers, things that are transformational habits that you can utilize on a daily basis to work through in 21 days, or you can take meditation, chanting, movement, and there are examples of that in the group and in the Patreon for you to do over the 21 days to take something to fruition from day 1 to day 21 and create real transformation. Change starts with you, with the little incrementational things that we do, and 15 minutes a day is what I ask. To take part in the challenge, you just have to be a member. If you like the membership, you can stay on. If you don't, you can just be there for the challenge. But while you're there, you get access to my full membership. And obviously, as paying members, there's the library of it's like the year of Qigong. There's the 5-day Qigong challenges in there. Visit meditations, sacred sexuality videos where I'm talking about divine sexuality. There's lots of meditations, workshops, vision board workshops, all kinds of things, so that you can work through in your time. Because if you've been listening this long, you probably could have done 2 or 3 of them. Anyway, love and blessings, and thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Have a beautiful day.